From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Weird story recently. A TikTok user. Let me tell you who I'm reading from here. This is from the God podcast. Do you know about God? There's a guy out there. I don't know who he is. He doesn't identify himself. He's a comedian, podcaster, writer, who just has a social media presence as God. He's got something called the God Pod, and he posts pretty regularly in social media, and he's pretty damn funny. So this is from God, straight from God. Reading now. A TikTok user may have dodged a bullet. The bullet being a job with the most humorless and insufferable manager around, after she was told that she wasn't getting the position she applied for because he didn't like her outgoing voicemail message. Zanaya Jones shared the voicemail left by the manager, explaining this in a video sporting some understandably incredulous overlay text. The time I didn't get hired because of my voicemail. Let me see, can we play this? If there's a link, I'll play it for you. Okay, all right, I found it. So here is the message left by the prospective employer.
Yes, Ms. Jones, I recommend if you apply for a job and you expect somebody to call you, that you have a more appropriate response on your voicemail. So thank you for applying, and no need to give us a call back here at Harris Teeter. Thank you, bye-bye.
So this was a prospective employer who didn't like her outgoing message, and that was all he needed to hear. Continuing now from the God website. Naturally, many people were curious about what that outgoing message sounded like to try and determine what this manager found to not be appropriate to the point of denying someone paid employment. If you were thinking there was cussing or something vulgar in Jones' outgoing message, prepare to be disappointed. Okay, so here it is. This is Zanaya's outgoing message.
What's up, what's up, what's up? What's up, y'all? It's your girl Naya, and I'm back with another banging banger. I'm sorry I couldn't answer the phone. Please leave your name, number. Yeah, you know all that. Gail, what happened? Gail.
All right, so there it is. Now, reading again from the God article. The message is playful and fun, which is apparently not what they're looking for at Harris Teeter Supermarkets, Inc., a grocery store chain in North Carolina. While some commenters agreed with the manager's opinion, calling the outgoing message unprofessional, many others felt that it was ridiculous to deny someone a job because their personal voicemail intro has some personality. If he's mad at that, trust you don't want to work at that company anyway, said one TikTok user. Yeah, I agree with that. Others remarked that the real problem the manager had with Ms. Jones, I hope you're anticipating what this is going to say, because I certainly did anticipate this, had little to do with the pure content of the outgoing message and more about the fact that her voice and language may have outed her as black. This shows carefree, fun happiness. To me, the only reason he wouldn't like this or understand is because racial biases, said another commenter. Racial biases in hiring are still unfortunately extremely common in the U.S., with many managers getting around anti-discrimination laws by claiming that various aspects of applicants of color are unprofessional, quote unquote, often rejecting applications if they have even names commonly associated with black folks. Throughout decades, since racism in hiring was supposedly made illegal, studies have shown that hiring managers disproportionately reject applicants when they can identify them as people of color. So yeah, this started out as just kind of a goofy, sad, little weird story, but it's indicative of a much, much larger and more serious problem. The article finishes this way. Regardless, the most common opinion among people responding to the TikTok video appears to be that Jones is better off not working for this humorless clown. Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that. I agree with that. But it's no consolation. She has every right to that job, as much right as anyone else. The fact that she's not employed or didn't even have a chance is still a problem. Yes, you've escaped working for a really bad guy, but he's the one who needs to leave, not you. All right. Sorry, Miss Jones. We see you have an actual personality, and we're looking more for corporate robots, wrote one commenter mocking the manager. It's a no from us. We are not born to work and die. We are meant to enjoy our lives, said another. Companies like to think they own you. Yeah, there's lots of problems going on here, but again, none of them dismiss the fact that she was denied the right to compete for a job. Yeah, I agree with everything the commenters are saying. This is a bad guy. You don't want to work for him, but you don't just leave it at that. This is a very sad, upsetting, terrible thing. It's a goofy, sort of funny story until you really realize what's going on. That's a damn shame. All right, so I hope she found a good job. I hope Zanaya is doing well. You know what? I'm just gonna search her name, see if there've been any follow-up stories. No, lots of people covered this. Lots of people picked it up, including God. But I don't see a follow-up. I wonder if she found a job. I hope she did. Let's see. I'm looking at her Facebook page right now. She's just a kid. She's a high school kid. Man, give her a break. I'm scrolling her page right now. Yeah, she looks like a fun-loving person. She doesn't post anything about a new job. Oh, she's in a new relationship, though, as of December. Oh, right before Christmas. How nice. Doesn't mention anything about a new job. Well, good luck to you, Zanaya. I hope you do well. And I liked your outgoing message. What's up? What's up? Yeah, man, racist. Hard to figure. And the right-wingers, the conservatives, so many people, so many white folks want to claim that racism is historical. It's something that is fixed. It's over. In fact, they've gone beyond that. Now with this whole teach patriotism and critical race theory being invented in order to be destroyed, it seems like they want to go further than that. Not just that it's over, but there never was any racism. Crazy. I feel compelled to do a little white-on-white conversation here. So many of my white family and friends just still to this day just don't seem to get it. A social media friend of mine posted this. Her name is Jacqueline. And I thought this is really good advice, and I'd like to share it with you. To my anti-racist, anti-bigoted, anti-misogynist allies and advocates working to become accomplices in the fight for justice and equity, these thoughts are useful and instructive. It's just a short Twitter thread I want to share with you from somebody named Michelle Baker. I have no idea who she is, but this is not about her. It's about the thoughts themselves. Okay, see what you think of this thread. Sometimes other white folks ask me the best way to be less of a clueless white person without demanding people of color expend effort teaching them. And I have a suggestion that will absolutely work. You won't want to do it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Step 1. Follow at least 50 more people of color on social media as soon as possible. I like that advice. I follow that advice myself. I have lots of people of color among the people I follow on social media. both personal, local, and then sort of in the realm of public figures as well. Step 2, read their posts and don't reply to them unless they're addressed to you by name or they've addressed a non-rhetorical question to the general public. Not sure if it's rhetorical? Don't answer. Yeah, I made that mistake once. As I've told you many times, I almost never contribute to comment threads. Occasionally I do, something seems kind of harmless, I'll toss something in, especially maybe I'll think it's funny or, But I don't get into debates, and when I do, it always comes back to bite me. And one time I called somebody out for using the N-word, not realizing that he was black. So here was a white guy scolding a black person for using the N-word. And then I was called out by others in the thread. Anyway, on with the advice from Michelle Baker. Step 3, make this a habit over a period of years. That's it. Certain things will gradually start to become clear to you that used to be extremely opaque and confusing, and you will never have to waste a single other person's time educating you. Yeah, this is an idea that only in the last few years people have really jumped on. I think white folks, and this is something I had to learn. You thought you were being an ally by asking your black friends to explain things to you. Like, oh, I'm so open I can discuss race issues with my black friends. But then you put them in the position of having to teach you things. Now, it all depends on your relationship. And I suppose there are times when white folks and black folks can teach each other things. I don't want to totally discount that idea. But generally speaking, white folks, my fellow white folks, you can't rely on your friends of color to be your educator. That's not their job. Again, if you have a close relationship with somebody and you can talk about anything and you can ask each other questions, I'll leave that up to you. But generally speaking, you don't want to rely on people of color to play that role for you. And I've noticed that really just in the last few years, really coming to the fore. And like I said, that's something I had to learn as a white guy. All right, continuing here from Michelle Baker. Same goes for a man trying to understand women, a straight person trying to understand the gays, or any other group of people who has traditionally dominated conversations, trying to understand a group who has traditionally been silenced or marginalized. Absolutely. I am your friendly neighborhood white hetero cis male boomer. I inhabit all of the dominant cultures. I and my folks have dominated conversations for centuries. So, yeah, listen, man, you got to listen. Listen and learn. And shut up. Just shut up. My God. The moment you enter a conversation between people your group generally dominates, you're tacitly asking it to accommodate you. Social media gives us an unprecedented opportunity to just quietly listen and learn how things really are for people. Don't waste it by butting in. See, I think this is really good advice. It is a really nice feature of social media. Other users are letting you into their lives. It's not like you're spying. It's not like you're being voyeuristic, although I suppose, I don't know what your inner motivations are. But if your motivations are pure, I think this is great advice. And I follow this advice. Yeah, I enter into the world that other folks are sharing with me on social media. And this commentator is reminding me, yeah, don't weigh in, which I generally don't, except for that one very misguided exception I mentioned earlier. I think this is wonderful advice. And I feel a special obligation as a white, hetero, cis male boomer to share this kind of advice with my fellows out there. Michelle continues. But I'm a straight middle-class white male Christian. This means I'll never get to reply to anyone. If you're good friends, go ahead. This is kind of what I was saying earlier. If you're not, why does silence feel so much like hardship? Really think hard about this. You're so close to understanding. I like Michelle Baker. I don't know her, but I like her. Also, well, actually, you aren't silenced at all. Thanks to the internet, we each have our own accounts and platforms where we can ramble as much as we want, and people can opt in. Witness me, white cis lady, doing just that, unsilenced despite my cis whiteness. And of course, I'll add myself to this sentiment. I'm a white cis guy talking on my podcast to you. I'm not being censored by anybody. I have plenty of opportunity, platform. I'm on social media like everybody else. I have a podcast like almost everybody else. All right, Michelle, what else? I simply believe that not every conversation is for or about me. And I also believe that the conversations that are not meant for me are worth listening to when they take place where I can witness them. Others' perspectives and experiences matter. And I also know that raised as I was, white and affluent, I am primed to believe that my opinion matters and should be heard. I have to fight that. I have to fight that conditioning every time one person says something I disagree with on here. In my case, it takes effort to stay silent. But for some people, speaking means fighting against their conditioning. Some people are raised to believe their opinions do not matter, and they are fighting that conditioning just to have these conversations, to make themselves heard. Social media gives them a place. In theory, being a woman should make it hard for me to speak up. But I was lucky. I missed that conditioning. My upbringing was largely free of sexism, so I have a very white dude tendency to talk over people, and it takes effort to just listen. But it is so worth it. I have learned far more about the reality of the world simply by quietly listening and observing than I have by debating. I highly recommend that all of you, especially those of you who belong to one or more dominant groups, give it a try as often as you can. So there you go. I think that's just a really nice thread. Excellent advice. Let me look up Michelle Baker and see who we've been reading here. Michelle Baker, if this is the same person, it looks like it is a writer, an author, fantasy genre. 2009 graduate of the Clarion Fantasy and Science Fiction Writers Workshop. Her short fiction has appeared in various publications. Her urban fantasy trilogy, The Arcadia Project, was released by Simon & Schuster. And let's see, what else? When Michelle isn't convention hopping or going on wild research adventures, she lives in Los Angeles with her offspring and their amazing father. Okay, so she's doing all right. She's kind of a well-to-do, as she identifies herself in that thread, of affluent, white, cis woman. Okay. Really good advice. Yeah, speaking for myself, my presence on social media, and especially my role here on this podcast, I feel a special obligation to talk to white folks. Do a little, as I said, a little white-on-white conversation. We have to be better at this. We just have to be better. And way too many of us, just because we have black friends, we just think that's all there is to it. Well, I have lots of black friends, so obviously everything's fine. There's nothing more I can do or should do. Nothing more I can worry about. I don't have any more responsibility. I'm a good person with friends of color. So I must be fine. No, there's so much more we can do. There's so much more we should do. As Martin Luther King Jr. has pointed out, and other civil rights icons have pointed out, and writers and thinkers and researchers, and I try to share as often as possible, racism is a white problem. And so many of us tend to think that it's a problem that black folks and people of color have to overcome. When we hear misogyny or sexism, we think, oh, that's a problem that women have. No, no. It's the white man's sin, the white man's disease. If racism is ever to be defeated, we've got to do it, us white folks, because racism resides in us. We're the ones who put it out into the world. We're the ones who manifest it. When cancer attacks the cells of the body, chemo doesn't attack the healthy cells, it attacks the cancer cells. If that's not too weird of a metaphor. And having zero expertise on cancer, I'm going to sound ridiculous to anybody who knows more about this than I do, but just the general idea. There are healthy cells and then there are cancer cells that are doing the attacking, right? All right, so in this metaphor, us white folks, we're the cancer cells. We're the ones with the problem. We're the bad guys here. Oh, and I know I just lost 1,000 listeners right there because I called us bad guys. Let me find a better way to say this. The healthy cells fight off the cancer cells. Okay, so in my little metaphor, it's perfectly legitimate and laudable that black folks and people of color stand up and fight against racism. Of course they should. But we, the carriers, that doesn't give us the option just to sit back and applaud. Oh, good for you. We support you. No. We're the carriers. We have to do everything we can to eradicate racism, not only from our hearts and our souls, but from our policies that we have a great deal of power over still. Two things are true at the same time. I am vehemently anti-white supremacist. Everything about white supremacy I abhor. While at the same time, I must admit that white supremacy exists, and I operate in a world where white supremacy reigns. And as a white person, I have to navigate through this world knowing that that's just the truth of it. So for me to stand on the sidelines and just cheer my friends of color, oh yes, fight the fight, fight the power, without actively, proactively fighting both my tendencies deeply embedded in my DNA, as well as the power infrastructure that exists in our current world. I've got to fight those. I have to actively, proactively fight those. It's my responsibility. Yeah, the whole concept of allyship is so screwy. I think so many white folks just get it so wrong. I need to admonish myself a little bit right here for even using the term. I've promised on this podcast, or at least I've suggested on this podcast, that we should stop using the term white because it's a fiction. There was literally no concept of white and black just a couple centuries ago. This is relatively, in anthropological terms, very new. It's only with the forced subjugation of people, with the rise of capitalism, especially with adventures from Europe to the so-called New World and the slave trade that made that all possible. The very idea, the very concept of a white person never existed. There were people from different regions, from different countries. We all identified as such. But yeah, this decision to be white is a complete invention. There was a big dust-up not too long ago. You know, Joe Rogan, the podcaster, is often criticized for various things. Well, one of the things he was criticized for, he was having this stupid, really dumb conversation with Jordan Peterson about how, well, I'm not white, I'm kind of tan, and nobody's really black, they're brown or chocolate, or so they were equating race with color and using that as an argument, as a justification for their anti-racism racism. We're really all the same, So to talk about race is kind of silly and ridiculous. Well, that just gets it backwards. Of course, they're right that race is a construct, that it's a myth, that yes, we are all the same. But they're ignoring the fact that great powers of religion, of the state, of finance, of huge sums of money over centuries, that these constructs have been used to create and maintain power to the point where one group of people can totally subjugate another group of people, buy and sell and torture and kill. So to take this ridiculous idea that color is arbitrary, and it is, but then to use that to claim that race is not an issue is just being so willfully ignorant, it's hard to describe. Because the invention of whiteness created the invention of blackness and people of color, and then was used in concert with a twisted version of Christianity to justify atrocity. The very concept of whiteness really only has one overriding theme, and that is of white supremacy. We are white, therefore we have the privilege. We dominate, we subjugate, we oppress. We have the right to do that. In fact, we have divine right to do that. And there's no escaping that. So today, and again, why I say we shouldn't even use the term anymore, because that's all it means. What else does it mean to be white? It doesn't mean to have white skin. I agree with Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson about that. It doesn't mean that you're from a particular place. It doesn't mean that you have certain characteristics or culture even. No, it's defined entirely in the negative. That is, I am not black. I'm not Asian. I'm not indigenous. The sole definition of white is separate from everyone else and better, more privileged. The default position to be a human being. I don't care if you believe you're a good person. You probably are a good person. It doesn't make all of that any less true. Well, I got to say, I've gotten way deeper into this than I'm capable of handling. If you want to think about this more deeply and more seriously, I really encourage you. There's great literature out there. Just check it out. I'll give you one link right now. The Invention of Whiteness. The Long History of a Dangerous Idea. It's from The Guardian. Goes back to April of 2021. Excellent article. It's one of many. All right. Well, I've managed to go in way over my head, so I'm going to get out before it's too late, and it already is. There it is. Take care of yourself. And I love you. I'm Charles Purcell.